To call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission on August 6th, 2019 at 7:06. Doing roll call, Commissioner Wirtz.
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson.
Present.
Commissioner Hudson.
Here.
Commissioner Clark.
Present.
Commissioner Boyer.
Present.
And Commissioner Lovingood.
Present.
And myself, Commissioner Romai, also present. And has anyone signed up for public comment? So not for Star Ranch, but for anything else that's out there. All right.
All right. Commissioner, Chair, I would like to make a motion that we move 4C in front of 4A.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
All right. I have a motion by Commissioner Hudson and a second by Commissioner Wirtz to move 4C up in front of 4A. Any other discussion by the commission?
Don't we need to do the agenda? Don't we need to approve the? No.
We're going to, but we're going to let them.
Yep, that's fine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. All right, 4C. Consideration of a public hearing and possible recommendation on the proposed Star Ranch concept plan revision number 2.02 acres more or less of land, one commercial lot located on Winterfield Drive and Gaddis School Road. Before we get started, I do want to, just a couple of housekeeping things. It is a 3-minute time limit. We have two particular individuals who have allotted time from other people, but otherwise it is a 3-minute time limit. And when you come up, please state your name and your address. The other thing is that if you haven't filled out a comment card and you decide that you have something that you want to say during this period of time, because we have so many, we want to make sure that we have all of this documented. And so we are going to ask that before you speak, you do fill out a comment card. We have moved them over by Angel, who's raising her hand, so make sure to just go up and fill one out. So if somebody else is talking and you go, ooh, I have something to say, you can just run over there and get that, and then she'll get it to me. But we do need to make sure that we have everything documented. With that, let's get started. Opening the public hearing at 7:09, and we will start with Renee LaFrance.
Before I get started, between the two communities that are affected by this, we have some objections, just a few. And this is for Lake Forest Estates and Star Ranch communities that are both affected.
Excuse me. Renee, excuse me. How many?
Well, actually, before she gets started, if Renee, before you even start anything more,
Yes.
please state your name and your address.
Renee LaFrance, 204 Silkstone Street in Star Ranch.
Thank you.
And I didn't count those because that's a lot. And I also wanted to pass something out to each of y'all.
Renee, do you know if they're duplicates?
Jessica, did we want staff?
They should not be.
They're not ones that were submitted to us.
Because we already have this one already.
I
They're
think that makes more sense.
No. We had people also sent to you as well.
Okay.
So they are.
They should not be duplicated.
There should not be. I had several that were sent to me and that I did not send to you. I do know that some from Lake Forest did have. They have some that were sent to you that they did not get. Forest Creek, sorry. I've been sick. I've had a headache for over 24 hours. That they did not give to me because they sent to you.
Okay.
So, is there possible that there's some duplicates? There might
Potentially.
be.
I'm sorry.
Chair Romai, Commissioner Wirtz, I'll go ahead and count these, so at least you have a count by the end of this.
Thank you.
But if they're duplicates, there may be only one or two.
Okay.
The map, and here's very important when it comes to one particular thing I talked about. This is from our multiple listing service. You know what that is.
I sure.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
But you must know too. So I'm just going to read, I'm not going to read all that stuff to you because that's a lot. But I do have one question to start. I see that Mr. Timmerman did not make it this evening. I do know that he does have a representative here. So my first question would be if he is under contract with anybody regarding this particular parcel for the gas station. And if he is under contract, who he is under contract with. And that is a question that all the residents would like to have an answer to. Yeah, I am.
Supposed to communicate during the open comments, or?
Is that
Because this is a public hearing, it works a little bit different than a typical public comment. So with that, what we're going to do, because there's probably going to be a few questions
okay?
For him, so we'll catalog those and then
Okay,
have him come up after and
that's fine.
answer all of those.
Okay, perfect. If somebody wants to notate that, but that is a question that we would like to have answered.
And
Okay.
we'll bring it up with his representative when it comes up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the thing I wanted to discuss was gas station and convenience store potential impacts on neighborhoods. The first thing we want to discuss is blighting, excessive competition. With the HEB gas station already in there and the 7-Eleven gas station that I believe is already broken ground around the corner, around McDonald's, if this gas station doesn't do well, then we end up with a failed business that has potential of a boarded up business at the entrance of our neighborhood. This is there's an upper limit to the number of establishments in an area that an area can handle. Community character. We do not feel that a gas station, the main entrance of our community and next to the golf course, falls in line with the character of this community. Crime. Convenience store holdups account for about 6% of all robberies in the nation. We just had a violent crime at McDonald's in July. A study of the relationship between violence and other factors found an increasing trend as the number of alcohol outlets in an area rose. National Association of Convenience Stores report noted that the following steps were most effective in reducing convenience store crimes. Cash control, locating a store where few escape routes, example nearby a highway, which is right off 130 Toll Road. Good lighting, which surrounds all homes. Visibility and employee training. I'm not going to go into all the health effects because you have this, but there are many studies that discuss everything regarding air pollution within 328 feet of a gas station. Air quality that significantly degrades up to 492 feet from a gas station. Talks about benzene being arguably one of the worst and more harmful effects to human health. The adverse health effects of benzene include cancer, anemia, increased susceptibility to infections, and low birth weight. According to the World Health Organization guidelines for indoor air quality, there is no safe level for benzene. The following studies document the extent of benzene releases from gas stations. There was a study published by the Canadian Petroleum Industry found that the average benzene concentration of 146 to 461 parts per billion at gas station property boundary in the summer and winter respectively. Another study found medium ambient benzene levels of 1.9 ppb in houses both under 165 and over 328 feet from a service station. Yet another study found that benzene and other gasoline vapor releases from service stations can be discerned from traffic emissions as far as 246 feet from service stations, and that the contribution of service stations to ambient benzene is less important in traffic areas in areas of high traffic density. This is because vehicle exhaust is usually the most abundant volatile organic compound in urban areas, often followed by gasoline vapor emissions from fuel handling and vehicle operation. The California Air Resource Board publication, Air Quality and Land Use Handbook, A Community Health Perspective, recommends a minimum 300-foot separation distance between gas stations and sensitive land use such as residents, schools, daycare centers, playgrounds, or medical facilities. As you can see by that map I gave you, we have homes that directly back up to that gas station and a pool, our community pool, that is not that far away from that gas station or the proposed area. The state of California is widely recognized as having some of the most effective air pollution control requirements in the nation, yet even with these controls, a minimum separation is still required to protect the public health. There was also a study noted that there was a 50% increase in smoking among adolescents exposed to tobacco advertising during weekly visits to small grocery or convenience or liquor stores. That pool is a small walk from that convenience store, where there most certainly will be cigarette sales. So now you're going to have all of our children in that community where there are over 800 homes currently, and where he's going to be building apartments and more townhomes, because we've already lost all of our estate lots back along Star Ranch Boulevard. He's already increasing the density. And all of those kids are going to have access to an area that's going to be selling alcohol and cigarettes. Lighting impacts. Lighting is essential to convenience store safety and profitability. Too much lighting area residents may suffer glare to their bedrooms or lose their view of the nighttime sky. Noise. CEDS recommends a minimum separation of 300 feet between homes and late night / all night stores. However, site-specific noise analysis may show lesser setback will adequately protect area homes. Such analysis should distinguish between rural and urban settings. A nighttime noise level of 55 dBA may be okay in a city or suburb, while 45 is more appropriate in rural areas. How do gas stations affect property value? This is important, guys. A convenience store or gas station can lower the value of nearby homes. One of the most plausible effects on mortgages, the Federal Housing Administration, FHA insured mortgages are not available for properties located within 300 feet of tanks capable of storing 1,000 gallons or more of gasoline or other flammable explosive materials. Those of you on there that are realtors understand that more than anyone. Those homes that back up to that property will not be able to take FHA home loans. You just now handicapped those homes, saying they can only take conventional home loans, because I don't even know. I've got someone researching to see if VA will lend on those homes. This restriction appears in Section 2-2M of the HUD Handbook of Valuation Analysis for single-family 1 to 4 unity dwellings. Most gas station storage tanks have a capacity far in excess of 1,000 gallons. Georgia study noted that commercial development in general can depress residential property value when first completed, and the effect diminishes with time. However, this study examined homes located 1/2 to 1 mile distant. Several studies documented that commercial use can depress nearby property value, but not at a distance. In King County, Washington, commercial uses were found to depress residential properties within 300 feet, but not beyond 1,000 feet or so. Apparently I messed up my own thing. So, given the impacts and corrective measures described above, an optimum convenience store gas station location would have the following characteristics: to be at least 500 feet from the nearest home, or be buffered so the store cannot be seen or heard from the nearest home. To preserve the public health, a minimum of 500 feet from homes and 1,000 feet from schools. Not within view of historic resources, at least 500 feet from wells, springs, streams, reservoirs, or other highly sensitive grounds or surface water resources. Accessible by foot and bike as well as cars. Convenience stores should be located at least a 10-minute walk or half-mile from schools. Located in a downtown or neighborhood commercial area. Should be well lit, but not to the point of causing light trespass onto nearby homes. In an area with many passerby and no escape routes for criminals, and an area where the market can accommodate a new store without putting existing ones out of business. And I have to tell you that half of those cannot be done at the location where this gas station is proposed. So, based on that map that I've given you, you've got about, I think, looking at this, 3 to 4 homes that would back up to that lot. Then you've got 2 homes that are across the street from that lot. And then you have a small parcel of land and a community pool. Where the whole of Star Ranch currently, because we don't have access to our second amenity lot, and it'll be some time since our developer has told us he's no longer building our second amenity center. He's pulled the funds away from that, so it's going to be some time before we will have the funds to build that ourselves. So we're going to have over 1,000 homes that are going to be using that one community pool for quite some time. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Scroggin?
Good evening. Do y'all start me, or I just start talking?
Just state your name and address, and then we'll get started.
Okay, my name is Judy Scoggin. My husband Travis and I live at 1357 Meadowall Drive in Forest Creek Estates. Our property and 3 of our neighbors, all here tonight, back up directly to the parcel of land on which Mr. Timmerman has proposed this. We have resided where we are for 22 years. This proposal is ground zero for us, and as such, we are among the families most heavily impacted. We have provided you with a 7-page typewritten objection document detailing major concerns and highly specific facts. I hope that some or all of y'all have the opportunity to read that, because it addresses everything. And I would like to thank at this time Ashby Grumman and Ashley Lumpkin, both of which provided us as newbies to this process a lot of patience and information that helped us. First off, I want to say we are not opposed to the retail and office retail development for this land that was stated in writing on the original Star Ranch development plan dating back to June 2008. It was posted at the Star Ranch Clubhouse. We all have copies of it. Hundreds of residents bought and retained homes, made major life decisions based on the stated purpose and intent of this parcel and others in Star Ranch. Not only people who bought in Star Ranch, but people who stayed in Forest Creek Estates because they had this document. They knew the intended purpose of the land. What we are opposed to is this 11th hour end run to change the long-stated intent of the land to include a hazardous facility covered under the U.S. Toxic Release Inventory. We are totally opposed to the convenience store / fuel sales / gas station portion of this proposal. Approval would totally change the entire character, sense of place, and quality of life in 2 long-established neighborhoods, Forest Creek Estates and Star Ranch, both of which were developed by Mr. Timmerman. Approval of a convenience store gas station on this land would jeopardize the health and safety of every single resident in both neighborhoods as follows. By impacting the air they breathe with dangerous carcinogenic vapors and disease-causing chemicals, by much higher noise levels resulting in sound pollution, by greatly increased traffic volume and congestion from customers, oil tankers, delivery, and dumpster trucks, by exposing them to the potential for increased traffic accidents and crime, and not the least of all, potentially polluting the surrounding ground and water through leaking underground storage tanks and pipes, hazardous waste, gas, and diesel spills, fires and explosions, and the list goes on. Any of you who were here last year are aware that there was a 40-gallon diesel spill from the HEB Plus on the corner of 685 and Gaddis School Road, which not only impacted the road, but it also impacted the land over at the pool for Star Ranch. And the contractor who cleaned that up said it was the worst non-ground diesel spill that he'd ever dealt with. So these types of things can and do happen. Please note many of these issues relating to exposure have even greater impact on anyone with already compromised health, and especially children, because they are, quote, short in stature, have a greater lung surface area, and due to the fact that as vapors are in higher concentrations close to the ground. Now, I had my granddaughter here a while ago with our daughter. We keep our granddaughter, who's now 14 months old. We've kept her Monday through Friday since she was 1 month old. She plays in the backyard, and I know her swing set's like 5 feet from the fence. I realize there are people who say, so move the swing set. Well, that's not the issue. The issue is fumes, vapors. I mean, the list is endless, but if you read that 7-page document, you'll see all the things. Children, not only my granddaughter and our grandchildren, every child that comes in contact or anywhere around that gas station would be inhaling these things. All the specifics about how this exposure takes place and the resulting diseases it can cause, as well as environmental damage, fires, and or explosions, are covered in our 7-page opposition document. So if you want to know how resident health and safety and environments will be negatively impacted, as well as the additional noise, odors, light trespass, and litters residents will deal with, please read it. You will also learn about the greatly increased traffic volume and speed that will result if this convenience store / gas station is approved, as well as the slowed response times for emergency responders who access our neighborhood through Winterfield. I've had some recent experience with that, so I know the way they're coming. Residents will face increased potential for and probability of crime in the neighborhoods and negative financial impact to property values in both Forest Creek Estate and Star Ranch for all homes within 1/2 to 1 mile of the convenience store gas station. So we're not just talking about the homes that are immediately behind and across from the gas station. In other words, if you want to learn about the devastating effects such a facility will have on the residents of 2 beautiful neighborhoods, please read the opposition document. In addition, please consider the following. We ask for specific details regarding this plan revision, including documents or diagrams showing how the facility would sit on the land, square footage, number of gas pumps, hours per day, as in was this going to be late evening or 24-hour traffic volume, etc. We were told none of that information exists does not exist yet, because developers wait to see if a project is approved before hiring an engineer, architect, etc. in order to avoid cost. We submit to you that information is critical in order to assess proposal impact on the residents of 2 neighborhoods, and we ask, how can any justification for the Hutto Planning and Zoning Commission possibly be made to recommend approval to the Hutto City Council without facts and analysis? There is no precedent that currently exists in Hutto for inclusion of a convenience store / gas station at the established stated entrance for a major residential area on a residential street. Gaddis School Road is a county road with a speed limit of 45 miles per hour and 35 mile per hour speed limit approaching the Winterfield intersection due to a double-blind curve and short turn radius. Both sides of the wall surrounding Forest Creek Estate in that area have been hit by cars at this location. Winterfield is a local residential street with a stated speed of 35 miles per hour. We researched current gas stations in Hutto and found 11. Of those, every single one is on a major thoroughfare, 4 on 685, including the one at HEB, 3 on US 79 in the Hutto downtown commercial area, 2 on County Road 110 at Limmer Loop, and 2 on 1660. All of these roads are also straight thoroughfares where the stations are located. The majority, if not all, face the major thoroughfare, and 10 out of 11, or 90.9%, either have open land behind them or do not have subdivisions behind them at all. 1 out of 11 has apartment complexes, but they are at a great distance away, and they have no green areas like a backyard immediately adjacent. 1 other has a subdivision behind it, but the station sits outside the established subdivision entrance, and there are no 2-story homes that back up to the property. 2 of us have 2-story homes. So no comparable exists for the Commission to recommend and approve this land use revision for a convenience store gas station. According to the Planning Commission website, local streets like Winterfield are designed to enhance livability of neighborhoods and should generally accommodate less than 2,000 vehicles per day. When traffic volumes reach 1,000 to 2,000 vehicles per day through residential areas, safety and livability can be degraded. Further recommends traffic analysis, of which none has been done for this proposal. It should be readily apparent that there would be a major negative impact to traffic volume on a residential street if a convenience store / gas station is approved on this land. There are many other vacant areas of undeveloped land currently in Star Ranch, including large amounts of land on Star Ranch Boulevard, which is close to 685 and already large volumes of traffic. If the need and justification truly exists for there to be yet another gas station in Hutto, and in that one on Star Ranch, then we respectfully request that the Hutto Planning Commission work with this developer to select another location in Star Ranch to put it with little or no impact on Forest Creek Estate and Star Ranch residents, and to retain parcels 31 and 30 as retail or office retail as originally stated and intended since the point of inception through the last 11 years. We respectfully request that the City of Hutto Planning and Zoning Commission members and planning staff vote not to recommend approval of Star Ranch Concept Plan Revision Number 2 retail/convenience store/fuel cells. Thank you for your time and consideration. I really appreciate it. And thank y'all for your answering our questions. We appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Tully Brown.
I'm Tully Brown, and I live at 400 E Nakoma, and that is 2 blocks into Star Ranch North. The current and permanent capacity of the eastbound turn lane into Star Ranch North is limited to 6 cars or less. If larger vehicles, such as school buses or tanker trucks, fill up that turn lane, all of the traffic will back up into the fast lane of Gaddis School eastbound. For safety reasons, none other but safety, I object to both any 24/7 commercial use of the property based upon the traffic safety concern of the turn lane filling up and backing into the fast lane on eastbound Gaddis School Road, causing multiple vehicle car accidents, rear enders, and a chain reaction on a fast-moving thoroughfare which combines a sharp curve with a blind hill, where people will not see the backup from the left-hand turn lane until far too late. This area is congested already, and school bus is not even completed. The school has not yet been built. 3 buses will fill up the entire turn lane and cause that traffic backup. Based upon rush hour traffic and still growing as the population of Star Ranch continues to grow, as well as school not yet operational, there is an estimated additional 1,200 vehicles coming in the future development. Not yet, but it's coming. Therefore, the commercial use of the busy intersection should be limited to a 9 to 5 business versus a 5 a.m. to midnight, or perish the thought, a 12 or a 24/7 gas station, or any businesses adding traffic during rush hour between 7 and 9 a.m. and 4:30 to 7 p.m. We don't want to tell the owner of that land they can't do anything. But there should be some guidelines that preserve people's safety and sanity. Professional officers, doctors' offices, etc. would be very suitable and would minimize traffic outside of the 9 to 4:30 or 5 p.m. schedule. We don't want that intersection to be a fatal intersection. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Stephen Diaz.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Diaz. I live at 164 Kirk Hill Road. I just came I haven't been here long. We've only been here a year. We were transfers from California. We moved into this neighborhood because we saw the tranquility that we see now. I know it's growing because this guy, he changes his mind every other week and everything changes. So, I mean, not too long ago there was a wreck on Winterfield that was a minor fender bender, but they shut the whole road down just for that minor fender bender. I can imagine if you put a gas station there, you're not gonna hear anything that nobody else is gonna tell you here. So I think this is just a very bad idea. There's no community behind it, and whoever's behind it is in for it for the money, I think. But that's another thing. So I oppose it, well, like everybody else is gonna tell you. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ricky Link.
Okay, my name's Ricky Link. My wife Dan and I have lived at 1361 Meadowwild for 20 years. So our property line shares with the proposed development with this parcel, and of course we oppose it. I think the big four reasons we oppose it have already been talked about with facts and figures. I'm just going to review them real quick. The environmental impact, guys, it's real. It's not, the numbers aren't made up. The safety concerns regarding a 24/7 operation, fuel station, convenience store, including criminal activity, we know that's real. Okay, the increased traffic and congestion, and my neighbors now reminding us, Winterfield and Gaddis Road is already a rather dangerous intersection that cannot really handle the traffic. It's already there right now, so it could only get worse. And then the last thing, this is the devastating impact on our property values. So, but I'd just take a moment just to make a simple appeal, just to common sense and reason and good judgment. If you were to, and maybe you have, just drive at Winterfield, stop at the stop, or drive on Gaddis Road, stop at the stoplight at Winterfield, and look, you'll see the pool, nice pool. You'll see nice landscaping in the Star Ranch and nice masonry work that's been done. And you just sit there and look like, hey, someone's going to propose a gas station, fuel station, convenience store at this corner right here. Like, you would say, no way, right? That's what you would think, just common sense wise. So we're simply asking that the Planning and Zoning Commission oppose this because from a common sense, good judgment, it's not. The list of positives, I don't know of one. I don't think there is a positive list other than the self-interest of this developer who wants to do more work and gain more money at our expense, and it doesn't seem right. So we're hoping you all be responsible and oppose this, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Elizabeth Castillo.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Castillo. I live at 1200 Augusta Bend Drive in Star Ranch. I'm going to speak to you on behalf of a couple residents who gave me things to speak on, but first I'd like to let you know about the impact on the water that is set up for Star Ranch. So what I mean by that is if there was a gas station, I've been told by folks that if the water line is not correctly in there could be a possibility of not having enough water to put out a fire at the gas station and support the north side, addition to another if there was even a fire there. So I want to read to you Title 30, Part 1, Chapter 290, Subchapter D from the Environmental Quality Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, Public Drinking Water Rules, Regulations, Public Water Systems. It's Rule Statute 290.44. D. Minimum pressure requirement. The system must be designed to maintain a minimum pressure of 35 psi at all points within the distribution network at flow rates of at least 1.5 gallons per minute connection. When the system is intended to provide firefighting capability, it must also be designed to maintain a minimum pressure of 20 psi under combined fire and drinking water flow conditions. The distribution system of public water systems that are also affected utilities must be designed to meet the requirements of Statute 290.45H of this title relating to minimum water system capacity requirements. Given this regulation, does the community's current system have the ability to maintain the above stated requirement in event that required large volumes are required for a firefighting event? That's a question to ask our developer. If our system does not have the capacity or ability to conform to these regulations, what impact will that have on our community? Another question. If our current water main is a dead-end system, can you provide analytical data that the flow will be sufficient to provide the appropriate fire flow and residential flow? If this data proves to be wrong, who will be held responsible for updating the system to bring it to code? 4 common water distribution systems are dead end, grit, ring, and radical. Which does Star Ranch have? Again, another question for our developer. Okay, that's one point. Number 2, I want to point out something from Mrs. Judy. that spoke. We did have an oil spill, a gas spill at Star Ranch. I happen to be the one and only board member appointed in Star Ranch, and we had to pay $10,000 to get that cleaned. If you'll read on the back of our petitions, there's more documentation about that. But we had to close our pool because there were several kids there. When this happened, they had to get everybody out of the area so that the hazmat team could come in and clean, and it closed our pool for about 3 days, and it was awful. They trailed from HEB all the way up Gaddis School Road. They tried to dump the fuel into our little little area there, and then they drove out and up Winterfield, and then the trail was lost. I don't know that they ever found those folks, but that was an expense. So are the homeowners going to be responsible, the HOA, anytime something like that happens again? $10,000? We're not a really big community. We are growing, but as Renee said, we can't even initiate our next amenity center. I want to read from a resident. A convenience store fuel station will bring safety concerns to our neighborhood community in the form of traffic. In addition, it brings fuel too close to our pool. Also, if alcohol is sold, it puts the neighborhood at higher risk of crime and is too close to the neighborhood children's play area. Our play area is not fenced in. It's an open area. So the development, if a fuel station is developed, that would cause serious harm to our play area and our pool area, as you've all heard. So I ask you, on behalf of Star Ranch, to not approve of this development. Is it ethical? I mean, we're there, we're residents, we're living, we have kids, we have a school that's going to be forthcoming. People are moving there, you know, we have lots of residents coming in. I think for the safety of the school that's coming and children who will be walking across to Star Ranch north to south, they're going to be walking through this gas station. Are cars going to be safe and stop? No. We had an incident just this Saturday. I had an incident on Sunday in my neighborhood where a kid got hit with a car. He was riding his bike and boom. He's safe, but more traffic is not suitable for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Lucretia Lehrman?
Yes.
Is that about right?
You did good.
My name is Lucretia Lehrman. I live at 145 Wiltshire Drive in Star Ranch. Been there for a while, probably one of the first owners on that north side. Love the area. I am also a real estate broker. Concern is loans, lending, making sure that we have a community that people want to be part of. My questions are specific questions. I guess when we do the question answer time, I'm just wanting to know how many gallons of fuel will be buried in the tanks. I'm interested in how many bays we'll have. Will we have 4, 6, 8? How many fuel pumps will actually be there for people to use? I'm interested in hours of operation. And again, we've talked about traffic flow. I would like to request some kind of a traffic you order to see, how many cars pass, what kind of traffic is going on there, what the projection is. We've got tremendous amount of growth and lots of things going on in this particular little area. I'm hoping each of you have driven there, stopped, and kind of looked like several people have suggested, just to see that there is lots and lots of people, and there's many developments that are going to increase in size within a certain radius of this location. And just like to see a blueprint. Can we see what you have planned? What are we talking about? We know a gas station, but my goodness, that could be, what kind, how big, those type questions. And again, as a real estate broker, just concerned about values because we want to make sure we can sell a property and it can get a loan. So that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Calderon.
How you guys doing tonight? My name is Joseph Calderon. I live at 124 Silkstone Street. couple concerns I have is we have not been annexed into Hutto yet, so we are still dealing with Williamson County sheriffs. So the response time on that is a lot longer. Just like with the McDonald's incident, Hutto PD arrived there a lot quicker, almost 15 minutes faster than Williamson County did. So if there's any crime, we're going to have issues with that. Big issue is the kids. Safety at the pool. You got families walking their kids around the neighborhood. It's a big issue, especially with traffic. It's going to create more traffic. You're going to have issues with that. Accidents just across the street. I've been there for 2 years. There's been 3 accidents where people have taken out the property owner's wall coming around that bend. And that's just in 2 years, 3 of them. Also, crime rate. As you know, gas stations bring a lot more crime. Theft, sell alcohol for kids, cigarettes to kids. I can go on and on and on. That's all I have for today. I hope you guys can understand and see where this community is coming from. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Michael Dye.
Hello, my name is Michael Dye. I reside at 1349 Meadowwild Drive. I am one of the 4 homes that back up to the proposed plan to build a convenience store service station. Based on what you've heard from our neighbors, a lot of them are really scared. We're scared about our values of our homes. A lot of these people have lived here 30 plus years. They built these homes 30 years ago with Timmerman's promise that that property wasn't going to be developed into something as he now proposes. My heart goes out to each and every one of them that's directly affected by it. Even the people from Star Ranch directly across the street. This proposal is detrimental on every front that they've mentioned: environmental, safety, crime, traffic. We go to work every day and we try to provide a safe place for our children to go to school, to come home to. And when that's threatened, people get upset and scared. And I think we're all trying to figure out what we're going to have to do. We're hoping that you guys really take everything that we throw at you today and really think about it, and for a minute just put yourself in our shoes. What if you lived directly behind a property that has been proposed to build a fuel station on? What would your feelings be? How would you feel about that? How would your family feel? That's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Green.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Green. I live at 1353 Meadowwild Drive in Forest Creek Estates. My wife and I have owned this property for over 30 years, and we are directly west. We are one of the 4 homes that's directly affected. We completely object to this project. Here are 10 reasons why. Number 1, there are 5 convenience store/fueling stations within a 1 to 2 mile radius of our property. This includes a 7-Eleven under construction. An additional station makes no sense. Number 2, health and environment. There are many articles pertaining to pollution, fumes, storage tank leaks, explosions, and the like that result from gas stations. The proximity of this project would leave us especially vulnerable. According to the National Center for Environmental Economics and the EPA, there are risks to long-term health. Our families should not be exposed to such pollution. Number 3, bright lights. The question would start with how many and what hours. Number 4, noise. The question would be how loud and what hours. Number 5, traffic activity. How can traffic possibly be directed in and out of this location? It's too tight. Plus, it's a blind corner from every direction. Gaddis School Road has very heavy traffic flow. One estimate is 20,000 vehicles a day. Number 6, safety. What about parents and children using the pool and park directly across the street? What about walkers, joggers, and bikers maneuvering throughout this location? Number 7, emergency response time. We hear the sirens of fast-moving emergency vehicles traveling through this area every day, often several times per day. How many minutes will be lost due to the congestion at the intersection of Winterfield Drive and Gaddis School Road? Number 8, gas line. There is a pressurized natural gas line running north and south through this location. Gas on top of gas. Property value. It is obvious the valuation of our property and the properties of many others will decline greatly. When we decide to sell, approval of a loan for a buyer would be very challenging. Number 10, crime. Just last week, there was a news report about crime taking place at a gas station. Once again, due to the location of our home, we would be highly vulnerable. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Frank Simon?
My name is Frank Simon. My wife Trudy and I live at 1338 Amistad Drive in Forest Creek Estates. We've been there since 1995. We aren't within the 200-foot radius, obviously, but my neighborhood and all the other neighborhoods nearby are in the Hutto ETJ, and that does give us a voice in this issue. I and my wife strongly object to this plan. We do not want fuel and convenience retail on parcel 31. There is a 3-page handout there. It's 2 maps and a single page of text. The nearest big intersections are between a half a mile and 1.5 miles from parcel 31. 130 in Gaddis is on the order of a half a mile away. Redbud Lane at Gaddis is on the order of 1.5 miles. The total distance from the Redbud Gaddis intersection to the Texas 130 Gaddis intersection does not exceed 2 miles. What business services are available at these 2 locations? You can see from the 3rd page that there are a lot of things available, not just fuel and convenience, grocery stores, doctor's offices, restaurants, personal service like dry cleaning, haircuts, all kinds of things that people need regularly. There are options that are unable to be available in parcel 31. He can't deliver them there. There isn't enough space. Maybe the original plan would be sufficient. So we really look at the fact that we just simply don't need this in parcel 31 at all. The developer should consider also what would be competitive for both of these parcels, 30 and 31. Can he charge rents low enough to make whatever he puts there truly competitive with what's at the other 2 intersections? That's a question that he needs to answer. Perhaps there might be better uses for this parcel than this particular plan revision. Maybe the original plan is what he should stick to. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Mr. Crater? See, Ms. Is it Jamie or is it Jamette? Okay.
Hello, my name is Jamae Critter, and I'm a resident of Forest Creek Estates. I live at 1309 Meadowwild Drive, which is on the corner of East Nakoma and Meadowwild. I so oppose this due to mainly certain issues, because these are my neighbors. I live on Meadowwild Drive. I know all my neighbors down the street that are very close to this corner. I jog, I run around those corners, going around the neighborhood. And these are our community. This is a quiet community that I bought into 12 years ago. And it has prospered. Our land has increased, and this is going to create a safety issue for just the corner, but also the traffic in the area. I live on the corner of Meadowwild and East Nakoma. That's cutting through. So these people are going to be coming through our neighborhood a lot more than they do now. And it's going to cause a lot of safety issues with cutting that through. And on the line of safety as well, our gas line is right in my backyard. So if there's a major problem and a major explosion, that's going to create a lot of issues in my backyard. So I beg you, just to think about all these concerns that our neighbors, our community have put forth into today. And please really look into making another better decision for this property as it was stated before. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue Green.
Hello, my name is Sue Green. My husband and I have lived and enjoyed our home at 1353 Meadowwild Drive for more than 30 years. The proposed convenience store fueling station would sit directly behind our home and behind our property line. Therefore, we have complete objection to the proposal, as do our neighbors in Forest Creek Estates. As of this afternoon, we have submitted to this committee more than 60 signed protest sheets from our households, and more are coming. Tonight, I would like to focus on the concern of gas station fires or explosions. As I Googled this subject and scrolled through the frightening photos and videos, I found a blog on a website belonging to John W. Kennedy Company, a leading supplier to the petroleum industry. The blog portion of the website is informational for owners of gas stations and the like. The title of this blog is Fire at Gas Stations: Some Facts, Some Statistics, and Some Prevention Tips. It was written August of last year and reads like this. According to the National Fire Protection Association, every year more than 5,000 gas station fires are reported in the U.S. These fires cause plenty of damage. Gas stations are fire-prone areas. That's a fact. There's no argument about it. Talking in numbers, on an average, gas station fires cause 48 civilian injuries, 2 civilian deaths, and $20 million in property damage every year. The fire breakout patterns at gas stations have continuously varied across the years. There was a time when structure and outside fires were quite common at gas stations. Today, vehicle fires dominate. Citing the MFPA's Fires at U.S. Service Stations report, 61% of gas station fire incidents involve vehicle fires. 27% are structure and outside fires, and the remaining 12% are outside trash fires. There are many possible causes of gas station fires, from static electricity to negligence on part of the drivers or staff, and everything in between. I personally have a story of gas station negligence. One day I was at a gas station pumping gas into my car when a tanker truck arrived to deliver fuel. The driver climbed out and soon began dispensing gasoline into the underground storage tank. He was no more than 20 feet away. I finished my business, then turned around to see a gas station employee standing between me and the tanker, and he was smoking a cigarette. I explained, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" He gave me a look of alarm, quickly threw the cigarette to the ground and stomped it out. A seemingly innocent mistake could have led to disaster. The blog goes on to explain the warning signs posted at gas stations, such as do not use cell phones. Cell phones can't trigger sparks on their own, but the use of cell phones can definitely create situations where a static discharge can occur and set a station on fire. Yes, as the blog warns, there are many possible causes of gas station fires or explosions. You may recall these headlines from last year. Austin man arrested after setting fire to gas pump in hopes of hurting self. And man arrested after starting fires vandalizing 4 Austin stations. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you. Charles, and then it starts with a last name starts with a P. And if you could spell your last name when you get back, it'll be up here.
I don't even know who I am.
Just Charles is fine.
Charles Patino, Patino.
Thank you.
Let me get organized. I live with my wife, Kathy Zaya, at 1221 Meadowwild. Been there about 25 years plus. So a lot of the houses being built, in fact, went in a whole bunch of them. Have a series of before people were there. I'm curious because in starting to research this, I'd like to thank the people who put the notice on my door, because it sounds to me like, once again, Mr. Timmerman is kind of going behind doors and behind channels and under the table and all that to get something done. Just like he did back in June of 2018 when he started violating his agreement with the city of Hutto of what he was going to build. Mr. Timmerman has a habit of doing that, just saying, well, rules are for other people, they're not for me. And those of us that have been around a long time that remember Gaddis School Road wasn't never going to go all the way through to 130. And it did. And that started the trend of hurting our quality of life. Many of us moved out there because it was calm, collect. As a retired veteran, it gave me some peace of mind. But it keeps getting torn away bit by bit by bit by developers that don't care about me and my neighbors. They care about that dollar, that greed. You're going to support a dying industry. I don't know if you noticed this, but combustible engine cars are dying. So whether there's a dozen or 4 or 5 gas stations around there, it doesn't matter. They're all going to shut down in a matter of time. And according to the Pertinalis Electric Study, by 2040, 75% of all vehicles will be electric. You're not going to stop that, so why are you supporting a dying industry? And then again, I'd like to see how the agreement that the city of Hutto reached with Mr. Timmerman on Star Ranch development, where he said to the citizens of the community back in June of last year that he would stop building. I got to find it, so excuse me for that. Let's see. Well, basically, he said he would start, he made several concessions, including he will now force the proposed commercial development in Star Ranch to occur along SH 130. So I don't have the whole story because this is short fused for me because I just found out about this. And it sounds to me like another little swing by Mr. Timmerman to kind of slide behind us all and get something done for that almighty dollar. You got an elementary school down the street. You got school buses trying to make traffic. Before you had those traffic lights, it was Russian roulette for those school buses to get onto Gaddis School Road. You're not going to have citizens following the rules to turn right, turn left. They're going to just go any way they want to get into that gas station. So more traffic's going to happen. If you leave HEB, if you all know the area of the new HEB and there's a McDonald's there now, people just cut across illegally to go to McDonald's. We don't think, and that's because people like you have to think for us by not putting dangerous places there. Right? We don't think. Thank you. And I'm being serious about that. I'm being serious because if you stand at the HEB for 15 minutes, God, I've tried to find out how many wrecks have been there already because people make crazy turns. They don't play with the lights. They just, I'm going to go this way because I'm an American. I can do whatever I want. We talked about fumes. We're in the southerly wind direction where we live. Sometimes you wake up in the morning, not as much now because of all the industry, but you used to wake up and you could actually smell the ocean. You could really smell the ocean. And you'd see seagulls, believe it or not. And I know that wasn't my imagination. Well, I'm one of those guys with my asthma and my Agent Orange and all that I have to watch the bad days that I can't go outside because of the weather. You put that gas station up there, the southerly winds, everybody pumping their gas nonstop, you just put me inside for the rest of my life. I won't be able to sit outside anymore. Just can't do it. And that's not only going to be me, it's going to be my neighbors, their kids, we're all going to be inside because of the fumes. I grew up near a gas station. They stink. They stink. It's like being near a sewer trap. It stinks. Traffic jams, we all talked about it. We talked about Tranquility being destroyed. We talked about elementary schools. To me, it's a dying industry. Why support a dying industry? You know? I think you all have an obligation to really look at how did this proposal ever come to this point when I read something that a year ago he agreed to not build anything of a business nature other than along S-130. So are agreements being made with good, honest citizens like you protecting good, honest citizens like us? And then agreements are then kind of sneaked by a year later so that nobody notices it? I wonder what's going to happen when more of my neighbors hear about this. Ask yourself this. After this meeting of having to hear a bunch of yahoos like me and asking yourself, why do I have to put up with this? And you're going home to your castle. After a hard day, you're going home. Do you want your entrance to be nice, pretty flowers, tranquil peace? Hey, I live there. I became somebody. I got a beautiful home with landscaping done for me. Look at this. I'm somebody. Or do you want to drive into a place that looks like a commercial district? Because if you put a gas station there, something else is going to be there. A pawn shop, maybe? A tire shop. You need a tire shop, you got a gas station. It's going to be ebb. And for those of us that live there and used to hear the coyotes at night, every little bit is killing us. And good citizens like you have the ability to help us. Don't let us kill ourselves with the traffic jam that's going to occur. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Wargo.
Follow that.
Somebody had to.
Hi, folks. I'm here before you today. I didn't plan. My name's Matthew Wargo. My wife and I moved here.
And your address?
Oh, I'm sorry. 101 Wiltshire Drive.
Thank you.
The very first house you come to in the Star Ranch off of Gaskell. So I'm in the backyard of this proposed site. We moved here just shy of 2 years ago, and I come with you with 25 years law enforcement experience from Pennsylvania. My main concern is safety. The very first thing, you look at the roadway, you look at the crest in the roadway, the curves coming from both directions, east and west, the short turning lane if you're traveling westbound and turning left onto Winterfield. It is a short turning lane, which you've already heard about. In the accidents will come. You're going to have the added traffic. You're going to have cars turning in and out of this gas station from their entranceways, not just from the roadways, but from the parking lot. And there will be added crashes. So it's my concern with added traffic, the curves in the roadway, the pedestrian flow on Winterfield Drive. I see it all the time. I'm in my yard all the time because I enjoy that, and I'm semi-retired. But kids, families with children, strollers, dog walking constantly up Winterfield towards Gaddis-Skull. I guess along lines with the added traffic flow, you would have, I guarantee, cars that are traveling west on Gaddis-Skull when they make that left-hand turn onto Winterfield, because I'm guessing with that intersection, if there is a gas station, they're not going to be able to cross the eastbound lanes of Gaddis-Skull. So when they turn onto Winterfield, what are they going to do? It's a 4-lane roadway. U-turn. They're going to U-turn. Guaranteed. It'll happen all the time. And like I just spoke, on Winterfield, you have kids walking to the pool. You have parents with strollers. You have dogs, the dog owners walking. So that's my main concern. Obviously, the crime rate increase, noise will be an issue, delivery trucks, if it's a 24/7 facility, annoying, dangerous fumes. I guess that's about it, but I just ask that you can take into consideration all these concerns voiced to you tonight, because they're all real, and we love the neighborhood and we just want to keep it like it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Mark.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Mark. I live at 112 Silkstone Street in Hutto. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our communities and our concerns. I mostly have commentary on what other people have said and maybe a few updates, some of which are a little unpleasant, but I think that you need to know about them. One of the things that is very important for the city of Hutto is planning for the future. You're going to inherit us. You don't want to inherit a problem. Really, people have already mentioned who's going to pay for this or that, correcting things. Poorly planned growth can exacerbate accident rates by increasing congestion, which tends to cause some drivers to speed up and take more risks. They just got to cut in just because that's their one little window of opportunity. And we already have very congested traffic at the intersection, the entrance. We have tremendously increased our population density from the originally planned density to what it is today after the various modifications that Mr. Timmerman made to that development plan. Everything that I'm going to say has backup in the documents that you have, references to articles, scientific journals, etc. But I'm not going to quote the dates and authors and whatever because you have that. It takes so much time. The delay of first responder access, I think, is going to be a very serious issue, as has already been mentioned by others. First responders, whatever type it is, whether it's EMS or fire or police, really need to have clear access to our neighborhoods. There's an alternate road that Mr. Timmerman has mentioned several times, Star Ranch Boulevard, as a potential access point. It's very limited. It's very zigzaggy to get in there. The only access is really on the west side of 130 is where that access road would be by the HEB, and it's not really going to be suitable. Plus, that is going to have a lot of congestion because there's going to be a lot of multifamily homes, a retirement care community, which also has ambulance traffic, and it's really going to be pretty heavily taxed. One of the things that I'm going to correct that is a problem has to do with what's the danger zone. We've been focusing on 300 feet from the boundary of the gas station as presenting danger to homes in the community. But more recent studies have shown that the ambient air within homes that are 600 feet away from the gas station have a 50% increase of benzene from the normal background that you might have just passing by one of our neighborhood streets where there's regular traffic flow, because that's kept in sort of gathered and accumulated inside a closed space. There have been a lot of studies that are quoted in the documents that you have. There are some updates that are U.S. based and more recent. And scary as the information is about the impact of those chemical components of gasoline, what our guys are saying here in the U.S. in more recent study is actually the problem is we don't know enough, because it's actually even more dangerous than what we have documented in previous studies, as we're learning more with better technology, better ways of tracking the impact of these chemicals on our health, whether it's increased risk of asthma or kidney disease, cancer, low birth weight, you name it. There's really a basket full of very dangerous situations, and a sick community really is not good for anybody, not good for the city of Hutto, certainly not good for us residents, so please do be on the lookout for that. But I'm going to talk, there's already been so much talk about the gas station. I really want to talk about the convenience store itself. There are studies that show time and time again that the advertisement exposure of adolescents and young children to sugary products, to alcohol, and to tobacco products has a definite impact on their health, not just with obesity, which is a very serious problem in the United States, you know, look at me, but also an early start date of smoking, an early attraction to drinking alcohol. Another thing about gas stations, besides the advertising, is that it's a very common place for people who are alcoholics, drug addicts, to congregate, to come and have their meals there, because the food is cheap, it's fast, it's accessible, and they turn to kind of use it as a hangout, because that's just a place to congregate and swap ideas. So what impact is that going to have from children that are watching that from across the street? Hey, those guys are cool. That's where the cool dudes hang out. And they're going to see behaviors that, in their young minds, is going to be desirable. And as adults, we might not be there. There's so many children that go to the pool by themselves, on their own, without any supervision, that are maybe going to be given snack money. Go to the convenience store, you know, pick up soda, chips, you know, whatever. While they're there, they're going to notice all the other advertising. They're going to figure out, kids are kids, they're going to figure out how they're going to get their hands on that stuff one way or another. But even the things that are perfectly legal for them to have, the low value, low nutritional value foods, are going to have long-term impact on their lives. And it's really tough to overcome obesity, and it's really tough to overcome sugar addictions. It's a very, you know, serious problem for us. So enjoy your reading. I hope that you do take at least a quick look at some of the articles. And before I forget, thank you for stepping up and sharing your Agent Orange situation. I know 3 other neighbors that have been exposed to Agent Orange and are suffering greatly. They have very delicate health. And it's not just, and they live more or less on my block. And it's not just Agent Orange. There are older people in our neighborhood that are very susceptible to changes in the atmosphere, environmental changes. And children, of course, are very susceptible because they're short, low to the ground, and curious about things. So please keep our community's interests in mind when you consider whether or not to accept that. I strongly recommend that you reject the proposal and stick with the current, the original proposed use for that land. And as somebody suggested, there could be very good uses for that land that would complement our community within the retail and office space without having to go into a fuel station and convenience store. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thomas Walsh.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Walsh. I live on 112 Silkstone Street in the golf course community of Star Ranch. Star Ranch concept development plans changes under consideration tonight include rezoning a permit to permit a gas station, convenience store, and retail on a parcel at the entrance of our community across the street from the community-only pool and playground area. Object to this change based on serious health and safety concerns for my community. Please help us keep our Star Ranch community healthy and safe. I also I submitted the research that I reviewed for making this opinion to Ms. LaFrance for her inclusion for your review. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy, is it Betts? So that's a B-E? Yes, B-E. Wonderful. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andy Betts. I live at 1524 Augusta Bend Drive on the south side. The biggest concern for us is safety. We talk about location. This is not the location for a gas station or convenience store. I've got a wife and two beautiful girls that cross the street 5 to 6 times a week to go running up Merrifield Bend to the end and back. And multiple occasions, cars that are pulling out, taking a left there, do not pay attention to the crosswalk at all. It's been multiple times where, 2 times almost, where she's been almost hit, where she's had to flag the person down to stop because I'm crossing with a double bob stroller, that people just aren't paying attention. So imagine the influx of traffic that's going to be coming into the community, the subdivision. People that live in the community don't pay attention, let alone people that frequent that gas station trying to come out of there. So the biggest concern for us, obviously, is property values for Forest Creek Estates and Star Ranch itself, but also the safety factor of the area and the influx of traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Peyton Crow?
How's it going, guys? I'm Peyton Crow. I live at 1417 Meadow Wild Cove, and we're probably the only millennials that couldn't get our printer to work before the meeting. So I got a little bit to say, guys. I object to the rezoning of parcel 31 as convenience and fuel cells and anything besides retail, to which was the original plan. And I stress to the council, as some of my other neighbors did, as the importance a convenience store will have the same dramatic effect on our property value as fuel cells will have. Convenience store and fuel cells to me is the same exact thing. Eliminate the fuel cells, and you have the same exact problem that we're gonna face if y'all allow this. Like I said, my property, 1417 Meadow Wild Cove, is directly across the street from parcel 31. My wall is one of the ones that's been hit by drivers in the middle of the night. So I'm directly across from Gaddis from the parcel. My entire backyard faces the property that we're talking about. During the purchasing of our property 3 years ago, more like 3.5 years ago, there was no mention of convenience/fuel cells in the development plans of Star Ranch. Allowing convenience/fuel cells to the parcel 31 in the last stages of development is nothing short of fraud. Changing development plans on us as a last stage of development in this, and to me, is the definition of fraud. And when I say us, guys, let me elaborate. I mean us as the 850 homes developed in Star Ranch. I mean us as the homes in Forest Creek Estates, which back up, and y'all have heard from the people in that community. Guys, let me remind you, if I meet my neighbors due to these unfortunate situations, they have lived there since 1989, the year I was born, okay? They have been there and invested in these properties. I cannot tell y'all what they put in it, because I don't know. I've been alive that long. So as we go and as we just elaborate to Forest Hills, we got to tell y'all that when it was developed, my house was cul-de-saced on Gaddis, and that was the end of Gaddis. Well, y'all or whoever built them a nice big wall there to protect their community. And here we go. We're going to add in fuel cells convenience right behind the property line. And so where we've gone is the purpose to save the properties from heavy traffic flow, as we call Gaddis, to save their investments, to make the properties worth a living, or what we call investable, allowing convenience and fuel cells directly behind their properties is unbelievable. I mean, what you've told them is that you're now destroying their equity they built over 20 or 30 years being in that community in Forest Creek Estates. But you're not only destroying their investments, you're destroying their way of life, where they're raising their grandkids, where their kids were raised. I mean, we're not kidding, guys. This affects us all on a deep level besides an investment. I know when it comes down to our property values have increased in the last 10 years, especially around Austin, and I've been there 3 or 4 years, and 3 to 4 years prior to me, my house probably was $160. We paid $240. Now it's maybe worth $350. Y'all got to look. They've been there for 30 years, and we're going to make one infraction of fuel cells convenience, and y'all going to destroy, I don't mean y'all personally, but y'all's decisions personally on the city council will destroy these people's equity, and that is no joke. And when I say us, I mean the people on Bethpage, right behind or beside my property, whichever you're looking at it. My neighbors right beside me, if I'm looking at Gaddis, they're on the corner of Bethpage, Gaddis, Winterfield. They paid $400,000, or right in the neighborhood. Correct me if I'm wrong. I would say within $20,000 or $400,000. And not only do they get their nice new light there on the intersection, so they get to see red lights, now we're going to put a convenient fuel cells across the property from their house. So you're going to tell me that they would have made that $400,000 investment off of a convenience store being across the street? I don't think so, and I think anything doing so is fraud as it gets, and I mean that with all due respect. And so I would have to say that let me reiterate when I say that these changes to the development as us, as a community, and the last stages, as we've seen, the whole Star Ranch is pretty much developed except for the amenity center. It's all been developed, and we're going to make this big change right at the last minute. It does not make any sense to me. Guys, I'm a car auctioneer, so excuse me. And let me go back to my property. Like I say, the majority of my property, my driveway is 40 yards from your proposed gas station, whoever the developer may be. And the wall in my backyard costs $17,000. The circle driveway in the front of my house costs $16,000. And just in the infrastructure in my front yard, off investing, off y'all's prior plans, is $35,000. Now, council, I don't know about y'all. I'm 30 years old. I don't know how many of y'all made a $35,000 investment to y'all's property based on previous plans. To me, is a nightmare, and that's being said lightly. And that doesn't go to the investment we've made in the principal of our home, or to the investments we've made inside the home. We're talking on the outside of my home, $35,000 to make it livable on Gaddis. And I'm getting sidetracked from my state here because it means a lot to me. So, but I'll tell you this: the Brownings that lived in my property prior to me, they wanted the property knocked down and destroyed like some of the others were. And their property was destroyed because it was cul-de-sac there. So their privacy and their retirement property and everything was put to the side so they could develop the area. I'm not against development and prosperity or whatever you may call it, but we bought the property based on the plans of Star Ranch, and we made the investment based on the retail provision across the street, and we made the $35,000 investment that the previous owners wouldn't make. Our backyard right there on Gaddis was a chain link fence. It looked horrible. I got you. And we spent $17,000 to make it right. And I asked the council to do what's right. And when I say me, I mean the entire surrounding community around us. I can't tell you, that if you go across and around the community, just around me, we'll have every bit of $100,000 impact on our property, and it adds up to a lot more than the $1.6 million price tag that cost to buy the property across the street. So I ask y'all to do what y'all would do if y'all lived across the street. When y'all go home tonight, whether it be in Gatesville, Texas, or a double wide, or you live in Steiner Ranch, I want you to picture 40 yards from your driveway a gas station with 24-hour lights, or on the back side of your property, as my neighbors will face, and see a gas station right behind your property. So I ask y'all for reasonable and common sense consideration to stick up for the taxpayers, and we appreciate y'all listening to us tonight. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Jordan Reese.
I'm the other millennial. I'm Jordan Reese, and I live at 549 Bradford Lane with my fiance. So I am actually part of the volunteer at the Star Ranch Committee, and as a committee, we like to get together and take this neighborly area and turn it into a village and get us all together quite a few times a year. And with that, we use our amenity center, because that's what an amenity center is used for. With the gas station being right across the road, we will not be able to protectively be able to have an Easter egg hunt out in front of the pool, where our kids run around and pick up Easter eggs right across the way. We also cannot put up yard signs or a big sign that we use for yard sale. We do yard sales twice a year as a community, so that we can lower the impact of having just random yard sales everywhere else, which is really nice for our community. So we won't be able to do that. Also, we have our biggest event ever, the Fall Festival. The Fall Festival is held in the parking lot of the pool area. And with that, we have food trucks, we have all kinds of bouncy houses, everything to do everything for our community. And with that, we're not going to our neighbors going, do you live here? Do you live here? Do you live here? No, it's opened up because we want everyone to come, bring your family, and have fun. We cannot minimize that if we have people who are parking over at the gas station and coming over to see what is going on. That's kind of a thing that we do, which start our family there. We also have end of summer a movie night for the pool night. Again, our gate is open for that so that people can just come on in instead of swiping your card every single time. And we have a movie night where we have kids are out running around enjoying a movie at night. Halloween, we walk to and from up and down those streets trick-or-treating with our kids. With the gas station being there, that's late at night. That's who goes during the day? Well, some of us do, but it's nighttime. We're already worried about checking your candy, make sure it doesn't have whatever and whatever. So with that, we're adding more safety issues when it comes to that. Also, birthday parties. Everyone has them. Pool is the best place to have a birthday party, especially for kids. So we have kids who are going out there doing birthday parties and whatnot as well. Also want to talk about a little bit more about the walking up and down the street and everything else. I know I see families out there that walk up and down the street with their strollers, with their kids, running. We go back and forth from the north side and the south side. And it's just dangerous already as it is. And to add a gas station there, we're also losing that side of the road in the safety. I wouldn't want to run anywhere near there. But it's a nice walk, especially walking to the pool. I would stop doing that too as well. So just keep in mind that, we use that because our amenity is right there. We use that wholeheartedly to make sure that we have a better lives there in the community. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Waller. I'm sorry? I thought he did too, but I just wanted to make sure.
I spelled it as he was like.
Okay.
I'm sure he's going to be against it.
So we'll pause on him, and then Renee, we're going to pause on you. We're going to have staff we're going to keep the public hearing open.
I only have just
Okay,
Do you want to say now?
come up and say it.
I'm sorry because I've been really sick for a couple days. I actually just forgot to mention that the sidewalks up and down Winterfield, they aren't even ADA compliant. So we're going to be adding this retail and this gas station. We're not even ADA compliant on our sidewalks. They're already dangerous, and you're wanting to add a fuel station and convenience store. We're not even ADA compliant. That's it.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to have staff give their presentation. We're going to keep the public hearing open. We do, and so after staff, we'll have the developer come up and we representative, and we can have some conversation about the questions that have been asked and open up to the commission for discussion.
As you know, last summer I think we dealt with a revised concept plan, but that had more to do with So last summer we dealt with the concept plan revision. I think probably May or June timeframe. The majority of planning commission was on there. Most of that dealt with the density issues and some land use changes. So today, really, the reason why this is coming back forward is that parcel or lot 31 had always been deemed as retail. The issue is that looking back through the consent agreements and the zoning ordinance that was in place when the consent agreement was done, as well as the new UDC, there's a difference of what City of Hutto would say is retail and what we say is gas or fuel for the convenience store. So there was a little bit of a back and forth between staff and the developer on what we meant by retail, and because it had not been defined in the concept or the consent agreement, it had not been defined in the MOU that was executed, I think, in 2017 timeframe, and then didn't really follow with what the UDC said. UDC actually said for this type of zoning, if this was in the city and we had zoning authority, would require a use permit for this because there are some additional standards that would typically have occurred. That's really how we got to revising the concept plan, is that when it was called out as retail, staff felt that that was different than what would be considered a convenience store with fuel sales per what we would then define as the same thing. So there really was just that we need to have a transparent process. We need to be able to bring this forward. I know that, you know, in the packets, certainly we don't have the authority to zone in the county, and we're certainly not by any means saying that we do have the authority. It was just, how do we move forward when the consent agreements say that this needs to come through the city? We need to be able to amend the concept plan based on land uses, and then you move forward, and our zoning ordinance at the time the consent agreement was approved, as well as our existing one, have not defined gas, fuel service, convenience stores the same way that we have defined retail. So that's really where we are today.
And let me interject, and this is both for the
Mike, can you just state who you are so that they
sure.
all know?
My name's Michael Shaughnessy. I am one of the outside city attorneys for the city of Hutto. We were, myself and my law partners were directly involved in the prior negotiations in dealings with Star Ranch and its developer. So just for members of the council who may not have been, or the commission who may not have been on when this started, let me take a step back and explain how we got here. Late in 2017, we learned that there were some developments in Star Ranch that were inconsistent with plats that had been granted. Now, as Ashley has pointed out, and as a number of you have pointed out, Star Ranch is not in the city limits. It's not in our ETJ, and we don't have zoning authority over Star Ranch. What we have is two things. The city has platting authority, which means that if they want to change the nature of a particular lot or if they're going to build on a particular lot, they have to do it in conformance with the plats approved by the city. All right? The second part, the second power that the city has is that under certain, the agreements that originally create Star Ranch required that they come to the city and get approval for concept plans and concept plan changes. But that authority it's not an unlimited authority. It's not that either the Planning and Zoning Commission or the City Council can just say, we really aren't real happy with what you're doing, so we're going to say no. The city doesn't have that authority. Now, what occurred is that when the city discovered that there were two sites in Star Ranch that were being built or had been built not in conformance with the plats that had been approved, we took action to stop any further construction, and we entered into negotiations with the developer. That resulted in a memorandum of understanding that many of y'all have seen that require approval of a new concept plan, which is what Ashley was referring to occurred last year, because the concept plan that was in existence until it was updated last year was clearly inconsistent with how Star Ranch had been developed. It was an original concept plan, but it had been deviated from. So last year they came back, they presented a concept plan that committed to certain changes and brought the concept plan into conformance with what had been built out there. All right. Now, the issue before P&Z and the issue before the City Council is they are, as Ashley points out, asking for a change to a concept plan that is based upon that they want to put in or have the option to put in a gas station convenience store, and there are issues of whether that is consistent with how the city defines retail. All right? That's a convoluted way to say neither P&Z nor the City Council have the right to say this isn't zoned for a gas station, you can't build here. I'm going back to the starting point, which is our authority over Star Ranch is limited to our authority either to plat or our authority under the original development agreements. So it's within that confines that both the P&Z and the City Council will ultimately have to act. Several people have brought up the issue of is there adequate water pressure? Is there infrastructure in place that would support life and fire safety in the event of a fire? And Ashley knows this far better than I do, but at a future point in time, if anything goes forward, we'll have to confirm that there is adequate water pressure out there. I will also add that is always a major concern of the City Council. It is always, in any development, a concern as to whether there is adequate infrastructure in place to support life and fire safety.
That's absolutely correct. So if this were to go forward, even at the time of site planning, we do also, for the MOU, we do have site planning authority north of Gaddis School. So we would then require the applicant to go through all of the public processes as far as site plan and building permit. So it would go through a full city review as well as the Emergency Services District review. Just as an aside, everything south of Gaddis School, although the city of Hutto does not review it, Travis County ESD does review that. So those have also gone through a full site plan review with Travis County. But it would still have to. So we would have to be able to verify fire flows, life safety, all of that. That's just a necessity that the state even requires. So there is no getting around that issue.
And part of what happened with the MOU is that the city, the developer had to provide the city with as-built plans by which we could confirm adequate infrastructure to support life safety, life and fire safety.
So here's just really just this one parcel. This does not include the entire concept plan. The before you tonight really is just for the parcel 31 to show that it's retail fuel and C-store where even dating back to the original concept plan, the big color map that was displayed for years, that one also said retail. So it really is just trying to define and further define the use that would be at that corner. It should be pointed out that we have been in contact with with Williamson County and their staff, and they still do not require TIAs, so there's little that we can do. Honestly, I don't know at this point with how wide Gaddis is if there was any effect that could have been made to.
Ashley, for the purpose of everyone.
Traffic impact analysis.
Thank you.
But Williamson County still does not require those for this. So even then, I don't know if the right of way, I don't think there's anything that they could give up to make that a better intersection. I know that there's a right-hand turn lane there, but I don't really believe that there would be a lot of improvements that you'd be able to do to positively affect change for traffic in the area. But I guess we should just get into that. So we got 59 responses that you got earlier, and I think another 99 after. We have not been able to verify if those were duplicates. Probably not. We would certainly be able to do that for you. But we did get a number of responses, as you heard tonight, opposing the amendment to the concept plan based on this use for parcel 31. So with that, it's really just up for consideration and discussion at this point. Staff, we don't really have a recommendation, only because we can't recommend on land use per se as far as it goes to zoning, just because of state law.
With that, if we can get the representative from the developer up to be able to, and if you can state your name, and then why don't you just delve right into those questions that were asked.
Hi, my name is Blake Reed. I'm work with the development team at Star Ranch. I guess the first question I can think of right now is the water. This area is provided by Manville Water Supply, and we also have a interconnect with the city of Round Rock if water pressure goes too low. That's all done through the Mud District. And I believe they either just finished or in the process of updating that emergency interconnect to make it automated instead of manual, to make it faster in case we lose water pressure. And then as far as if we're under contract, we are under contract with a developer who runs and manages convenience stores and other fuel centers. I don't know what their exact site plan is because I've not seen it. I do not know their name off the top of my head. I remember it's hard to pronounce. But
The meeting is being recorded.
We asked a question. Who was the good individual? Can we find out?
I can find out. It's a smaller developer that runs 3 or 4 different gas station convenience stores. It's a developer that runs a few convenience stores. It's not a large operator. I do not know what brand. It's very, at this point, preliminary because I don't have a site plan or anything. We're selling the land to them. I'm not involved in the actual development process of the gas station. And then I don't remember what other questions.
Well, wait. Hang on. A couple of the questions were, I just took some notes. I'm not trying to cut anybody off. I just took some notes. Have you done any traffic analysis? There's significant concern about traffic in that area and the impact this change would have on traffic in that area.
We have not specifically done any traffic analysis on this one site. We have talked to Williamson County about potential driveways, and from the current conversation that we've had with them, which has been limited because there's no site plan, is that there will only be a right in, right out off of Gaddis School Road, and we are hoping to have a joint access single driveway off of Winterfield that would serve this site as well as the other 2 acres that is not currently being developed.
One of the other questions is, it sounds like you don't have a site plan as of yet.
We do not. We are just selling the land to the other developers, and they will go through the site plan process.
So you haven't sold the land yet?
The land is under contract.
What's the closing date?
I do not know the information off the top of my head. Tag Development is not the entity that's purchasing the property.
Tag Development is Timberland?
Yes.
What is the asking price for the land?
That I'm not totally sure off the top of my head.
1.6 million. The traffic on the road is on the advertised commercial property. They have a vehicle analysis on the advertisement of how many cars pass through the day. So I feel like if they're here representing the development, they should be able to represent what they're advertising online. And for the property that they say have under contract, they're advertising how many cars pass through the area, so they should more than know what's going on.
The advertisement you're talking about is from a broker, and I'm not sure where exactly they pulled their information, but it would be from some study. Yet again, I did not put that together, and neither did our development team. It was the brokers that.
I'm guessing it's on a large.
Sir, just so we can keep.
And as part of traffic, Star Ranch Boulevard is under construction that will complete the loop around the golf course, and that should be open towards the end of October or November, which will create 2 paths in and out of the neighborhood.
The other question was about the property values and the health issues.
Yeah, the other questions were basically, was there any consideration? Let me take a step back. In terms of asking for the change, has the developer done any analysis relative to either safety of additional traffic on people who live and carry out different activities in the area, and or any analysis of the impact of a gas station on those folks who live in and work in the area?
We have not.
I have a question for you. So are you not concerned that every single person that lives in your neighborhood is going to be very pissed off, may start boycotting and create a very big issue for you as a developer? Is that something that you've even considered or thought about in your site plan, selling brokerage under contract analysis?
This property was always going to be sold. It's never going to stay as a piece of grass. No matter what you do, nobody's ever happy.
Okay.
Not everybody is.
All right. We need to have. We do need to keep some order in here. With that, I'm going to actually, Blake, have you step down for just one moment. We have another resident that would like to speak, but don't go too far because I'm guessing that the commission still has some questions for you. But to bring up Maurice Kahunda.
So just basically a question for
Why don't you come?
before that map.
Why don't you sit? That one?
No, it was mapped. That one.
Okay. You can state your name and
Maurice
address.
Kahunda, 212 Silkstone Street in Star Ranch.
If you can sit down.
Oh, sure.
Have a seat.
Thank you. The question I have is, it looks like both sides of Winterfeld, as he was just mentioning, as the gentleman was just mentioning, it was going to be retail anyway. Is that correct? So the side where the pool is at is also that land that's over there. That's also going to be retail right next to the pool. Is that correct? Then my question then becomes,
since that's changing, or he wants to change, that Mr. Timmerman wants to change that to a convenience store, or gas station, those other 2 parcels that are left, is he going to change his mind? Has he spoken on that yet?
We have no current plans for that parcel.
But he can, or he may, change his mind on that.
He could propose a revision right now. There's no plan to do that.
And what are they currently under the concept plan?
Just retail.
I was just trying to make that clear.
Yeah.
Then I submit to you that there's nothing I can add on to what everyone else has said, other than this is not going to be aesthetically pleasing. Not that aesthetics has anything to do with the legalities and what you will do as the planning commission. It's not going to be aesthetically pleasing. And my fault, I don't recall when I looked at the original map that that whole section was going to be parcel. I don't recall that when I saw the original map when I purchased my home more than 5.5 years ago. But that being said, I would have to strongly, again, as everyone else has been strongly asking you to oppose this. And somebody mentioned, and we had this conversation, I remember the attorney was there at the city council meeting, and I brought it before, and someone did mention, excuse me, we're going to become part of Hutto. You guys, sooner or later, are going to want to annex, Star Ranch. Of course, you'll come and you'll ask the voters if we want to be annexed by Hutto. I don't think you want that problem either, because this is going to be a problem. And just as you had to clean up the water in Old Hutto, the sewer system stuff there, you're going to have problems over here. So I strongly submit you should reject this proposal. Thank you much.
Thank you. And Blake, if you can come back. And I'd like to open it up to the commission for.
We're going to close public comment until we can start talking. Otherwise, it's going to be a free fall.
Yeah. Does anyone? Okay.
It was just my questions originally. I wanted to know the fuel storage tank underground. I knew it was under contract. I mean, that's the reason.
Yes.
I was trying to get the developer to give specifics, but now I understand he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't know the buyer. He doesn't know what's going on. So really, we don't have any information. We don't even know the safety concerns, how much gallons are under gallons. That tank under the ground. We don't know the safety. We don't know traffic count. We don't know anything. So is he going to be required as a developer and/or? I guess the answer is no, because he owns the land. So when he sells it to the next person, the buyer, does the buyer have to come back and go through all this procedure and then we do this again? Because he can sell the land. You cannot stop him from selling the land. Do we have any right to stop the buyer? Not stop, the question, however you want to put it, because I don't think you guys could even require a contract. You can't ask to see anything, is that correct?
We will see the platting of that property, so there's a whole site plan review. So we would be able to, if I'm not mistaken, be able to make sure water lines,
Staff would be able to bring forward a final plat. I believe this has already been final platted. But the only thing that state law is going to require us to do on final plat is to essentially make sure that the meets and bounds, everything closes, and there's adequate water, wastewater, and street frontage.
And
tanks or bays or anything?
No, that's a part of a site plan review, but that's all administrative.
Okay, thank you.
Environmental study, there's none done.
There would be through TCEQ, but it would not be through the city. They would have to turn that in.
Okay. If there's people who want to speak that have not filled out a card, let's do that. And while the public comment is still open, but we can't just have. That was a quick clarification. So if we can have a couple more people, we'll give them a chance to fill out their form. Blake, you can sit down for a moment.
I have a question for my comment.
That he hasn't answered yet, then why don't you do that? Blake, why don't you come up and do that while gentlemen's...
Just what type of water distribution system does Star Ranch have? And then dead end, a grid, ring, and loop program, phase radical, which one to start at?
I believe it's loops, but Israel, it's a loop system. He's our engineer on overall Star Ranch. He's not here for our project, but he just happens to be here.
Ma'am, because you haven't, can you sign up real quick?
I just had a question.
I understand that, but you have to.
I have a question of the council. What is y'all's ability to stop the fuel and convenience verbiage on that property? I know y'all are representing, y'all sent a, what do you call it, to the city council. Do they have any power to stop the convenience?
Yeah, and that's actually what the legal has just, we'll reiterate all of that in terms of what.
We don't, this is not a situation where you are in the city limits and we can say this is not zoned for convenience store or gas station. We don't have that power.
Who has the power?
Okay, well, okay. The problem is, in this part of the county, nobody has zoning. The Texas Constitution doesn't give counties zoning authority. All right? Cities have zoning authority, but their zoning authority is limited geographically.
You live outside the city limits. That's the Wild West.
I mean, I hate to say this, but it's one reason why you have a waste transfer station just north of Hutto. It's because the city doesn't have zoning. And it's one of the reasons why in the last 2 years, Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, we've had an issue with a potential expansion of the waste transfer station by the construction of another related facility, a transfer facility, and or a oil transfer facility. In both instances, the city was able to convince the entity that wanted to do that they wanted to go elsewhere. We weren't in a position to say you can't do it. We looked at all of the options in both of those cases, and ultimately with both, helped them find a better location, which was not going to immediately affect folks in Hutto and in Williamson County.
With that, we do have some people who have signed up to still want to talk. I want to make sure that we have time for everyone, because we do have to try to move forward with our ability to still ask questions and whatnot. But if Doug McBride can come up.
My name's Doug McBride. I live at 1408 Augusta Bend Drive in the south part of Star Ranch. And I started out when I had to fill out the card with just having a question, which was actually asked from the back. Can anybody stop this guy, is basically what it comes down to. And from what I'm hearing, why are we here tonight? If you guys, and I don't mean that in any kind of derogatory way, that part was derogatory. The idea was that we could come to a government body and perhaps address an issue that we have in Star Ranch with a developer who seems to be able to do anything he wants to do, as long as it's not against some state law. That there's really no jurisdiction that the city of, and understandably that the city of Hutto has over a territory, and that's territorial jurisdiction. So I don't know why we're here. And I know we went through this a year ago, maybe with a retail strip that the developer wanted to build in front of a golf course pond. And somehow that got stopped, but I think it was not a legal stop as much as it was some trade-off in agreement. I don't know how that came out.
Not to interrupt you, that was stopped because the development was inconsistent with the plat that had been granted by the city. So that was within our authority.
What's the difference in this?
But it wasn't that plot, if I remember correctly. He had done something wrong in building some apartments.
There was a office building built on an area that had been platted as apartment.
Okay.
And he had added an office building, so we could stop his occupancy. In another instance, he was building homes in an area that had been platted for commercial, so we could stop him, all right? And that was part of the 2 town hall meetings we had where basically folks from the Star Ranch community came out, addressed Mr. Timmerman, and ultimately led to the memorandum of understanding. It also led to finally getting a concept plan in place that was consistent with what the development had been. The concept plan that existed then was inconsistent with what he had done. And what we made the developer do is come forward with a development plan that actually reflected everything he had done and make concessions regarding where he was locating certain things. So some areas that he had intended to do retail, he converted to residential or to something else. But under those circumstances, we had the authority because he had taken actions that violated the plats that had been granted.
So, because that had been designated retail, I assume that corner we're talking about, he can do retail there.
The issue is our definition of retail, the city's definition of retail does not include gas stations and convenience stores.
So he's asking for a chance for that to change so he can put in a gas station. Okay, why?
Well, wait.
Mr. I really want to ask that we don't have any shouting out from the audience. If we could please refrain from that. Mr. Shaughnessy?
The issue is this. The agreements under which Star Ranch was created and the 2 MUDs were created give the city limited authority. Okay? The fact of the matter is our codes don't apply. Our zoning codes don't apply out there. The fact that we define retail as one way and the fact that he defines it another way does not mean that we can interpose, that we have the absolute right to interpose upon him the codes that would apply in the city. Okay. We are not agreeing that he has the authority to do whatever he wants, and we're negotiating with him right now. At the same time, he has the right to come before P&Z and say, I want to have you approve a change to our concept plan that would recognize that I'm going to put a gas station and convenience store at this location. What I'm trying to say in a polite manner is, please understand that there is no one on this dais who is encouraging this developer to make this change. All right? That's not our position, and we're not allowed to take a position on that. We are not happy with this decision. We're not unhappy with this decision. What we get to do, and I hate to use a sports analogy, but it's the best one I can come up with. We get to call balls and strikes. We don't get to say, you know what, we'd really rather you do something else. If he plays within the rules, he gets to play. The only thing P&Z and the city council can do is you are clearly outside the rules. That's where we are right now. And we are negotiating with the developer on a number of issues.
So are you saying there are other issues that may come into play regarding the decision, whoever makes it or doesn't make it on this plot?
This issue is strictly related to, can he get an approval to change the concept plan to recognize that retail at that corner includes a gas station and a convenience store?
But I guess my question is, and I'll stop because these people have been here a long time. Why does he even need to get your approval? Why does he even need to get approval, and of whom does he need to get?
He has to get approval of P&Z and the city council because he's changing his concept plan.
Okay.
If y'all deny his approval,
Sir, Mr. Crow, I'm sorry, but
we got 375,000 reasons. My personal, my own.
no, Mr. Crow, we completely understand, but we did hear from you, and we do have a few more people that have still needed to speak. And
On to my question,
sir,
You've had your 3 minutes.
Don't make me have to come back there. I guess what I want to know, bottom line, is have we wasted our time here tonight?
No,
Is there
you
any-
haven't. Because the last
I
time
know
y'all
we wasted
turned out...
yours. Have we wasted
No,
ours?
no, you haven't
you haven't wasted our
your
time at
time
all.
at all. Number one, P&Z wants to hear from you. Number two, the city council wants to hear from you. And at the end of the day, you last year when y'all came out, you got some concessions from Mr. Timmerman. Okay? I'm not going to tell you you're going to get any concessions right now, but the more you make yourself heard to P&Z and city council, you might influence what Mr. Timmerman does. Now, I'm not Mr. Timmerman, I'm not his lawyer, and I can't make you any promises. But if your choice was to sit back and not come out tonight or come out tonight, you made the right decision because P&Z has heard you. And when this matter, if it gets taken up by the city council, if you will come back out, you are better off being heard than not being heard.
Because it was sounding like it was kind of hopeless there for a little bit in terms of if he wants to do it.
We wish we had more power in this circumstance.
I wish you did,
We
too.
don't. Okay?
Right.
But I got to tell you, it's the same thing that Ashley and I and Otis Jones all told people who were fighting an oil transfer station and a intermediate waste transfer station. We wish we had more power, but we'll do what we can.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you.
With that being said, in the interest of time, I would like to make a motion that we close public hearing because we have other.
We do have two more.
But they came up after we'd already finished.
Let them talk.
Okay.
Can we please let them
Let 'em
talk?
talk.
And then we'll close public hearing after these two.
Okay.
Claudia Caper? Is it Capers? Capers. Okay.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to be here and address our concerns for our community. I have a couple of questions Claudia Capers, 151 Mount Ellen Street in Star Ranch. And, okay, I'll continue with the questions. Is there someone from the city that will have the answers for the residents as far as who owns the property? When is the closing date? What is the asking price of the actual property that we're talking about? This case is partial 31. And let's see. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to to speak. I just make my chicken scratch over here. So the main concern that I have about the water ability to cover the area for any kind of emergency, who is going to get that information and when, and would that be available to the public?
If I can defer that to question over to staff.
So we don't have any of the information as far as the price, who's buying it, who owns it, or anything like that. That's all private. The water would be done through Williamson County as well.
Mm-hmm.
We will review that during the site plan process, but as far as if they have the ability to serve water to the property from a fire standpoint, that would be through the Emergency Services District.
Okay. Is the city going to require for that, or is that something that we as the residents have to look into?
Require what?
To have that analysis to see if the water is going to be sufficient to cover in any kind of emergency situation.
Yeah, they'll do, the emergency services district will make sure that the fire flow is adequate for the property.
What is the time frame for that?
I mean, that's dependent on the developer when they submit.
Okay. The other question was, as far as the clause that we keep on talking about, as far as retail and the specifications, I understand that the city has the partial under retail, and the developer has it under retail/fuel. How does that? I mean, there has to be some kind of agreement between you guys, or how does that? I'm having a hard time understanding how the city has it under one category and the developer has it under a different category.
It all comes back into the fact that it's city limits versus because you all do not fall under the city limits. It means
Correct.
that we don't have zoning authority, which means that what we say retail is defined within our unified development code within the city limits. We don't have the ability to enforce what those codes and ordinances say within the ETJ.
Okay.
Within you all.
Okay. As far as what we talked about before, I know that there was a specific plan, and the reason that we were able to, I guess, kind of gave you guys a little bit of leverage to be able to kind of talk to the developer as far as the how the plan was originally designed in the certain areas. My understanding it was where the townhomes that was supposed to be retail or something like that, where the original plan was not as followed, that it was approved by the city. And so that kind of gave you guys, my understanding was that kind of gave you guys a little bit of leverage to kind of be able to negotiate and with a developer. With that being said, what did the city do to kind of to move on, moving forward, to hold him, I guess, accountable, or what are you guys doing, or what kind of measurements is the city taking in place to be able to make sure that doesn't happen again?
And with that, I'm actually going to defer that to Mr. Shaughnessy to reiterate what he stated before with the memorandum of understanding.
We negotiated a memorandum of understanding that required the developer to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
It did not require him to consent fully to city zoning. We're back to the issue of he has to get approval of concept changes. Our ability to control concept changes to the concept plan are limited. We are working with and negotiating with the developer right now. And I don't know what else to say. As we've indicated before, we wish we had the full power of zoning over this property. We just don't.
Could I iterate a question? Sure. So I think the issue is that, we in Hutto have defined retail a certain way with a special use permit required for convenience and gas stores. Outside of our city limits, retail legally could be including that. So I don't understand why we have to get it relisted. Why can't it just stay retail for his point of view? What if we don't, for example?
Because he is required to get any change approved. And when he indicated he wanted to do a gas station convenience store, we said, that doesn't meet our definition of retail. If you want to do that, you're going to have to get a concept plan change.
Is that something you could win in court? if we refuse it and leave it at retail, that then he couldn't build a fuel station, and would the city go sue him?
We could litigate that issue. That's a decision for the city council.
And who are y'all litigate that against? Just
What?
the developer?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Okay, if y'all refuse them to do the retail and y'all choose to take it to court, how does that work for us that are lawyers? I mean, is there something, can we take private counsel and get a group together?
That's a whole separate issue. Wait. Let me answer your question. The city, P&Z and the city council have certain authority. Whether y'all have the ability to take separate action against the developer is not something we can advise you about. Okay, and it's not something that we can engage in a discussion about tonight. You might have remedies, you might not, but that's a separate matter that's just beyond the scope of what either P&Z or City Council can do.
Okay. The other question, it was as far as are you guys going to be requiring, well, I guess, or is there anything that you guys can do to make sure that there is going to be the infrastructure to be able to have enough water to cover any kind of emergency situation? And is there...
Yes, we can answer that. There's no development that is going to go into that property where the city cannot confirm that there is adequate water pressure for life and fire safety.
Or even just for the certificate of occupancy. That's part of state law. We have to ensure that there's water, wastewater, and adequate fire flows for everything.
So that could delay his building. In other
Right.
words, if this moves forward until they get that approval or get reviewed everything, that could just delay him. They're not going to push it through until it's safe.
Right. Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Tully, if if you can make it just quick since you were already up here.
Yes, I am. Only 2 points. Again, I'm Tully Brown, and I live in 400 East Nakoma in Star Ranch North. I only have 2 points. I don't know. I actually forgot my hearing aids tonight, but I think I heard these people more than somebody did. Because if you want the Star Ranch tax base, if you don't want the Star Ranch tax base completely decimated and to go down $10 to $20 million in value because of loss of property values, because of that, disapprove based upon the fact it is not retail, it is fuel in a living space. People live, breathe air from that. I'm sorry, but you're going to have riot on your hands if you don't make the right decisions. Number 2, point B. Texas has a legal concept, and I defer to the lawyer to agree with me or disagree. Texas has a legal concept of fighting words, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So if I insult your mother, those are fighting words, right? I'm just saying. Okay. The depth of feeling, the depth of financial commitment of thousands of residents in Star Ranch and the surrounding communities you've heard from makes this equivalent to fighting words. The last and ultimate step is everyone's going to move, and those houses will be vacated, not sellable. Do the math. But there's several other steps that would happen before then. put your crystal ball in front of you and say, there's a lot of irate people that are going to go to ends of the earth to stop this. End of the earth. Fighting words. That's how severe this is. And Mr. Timmerman needs to realize what he's doing to people. And I defer to anyone behind me to concur or not concur. But know very well that this is a fighting word issue to our soul. We have sunk our life savings into these properties, and in this arrogant move for greed, this developer, who has already broken faith with both the city of Count, the city of Hutto, taxpayers, already violated that trust. And we're going to get in bed with him again? This is ridiculous. If we have a proposed concept plan amendment, it is proposed. If it is not yet retail fuel sales convenience store, disapprove it. Or else suffer the consequences when you try to annex Star Ranch, or when you try to tax Star Ranch, all those vacant houses, or all the people that have moved and all the properties are up for sale and not selling. What do you think is going to happen? Put on your crystal ball. This developer does not care one iota about any of the people that he has profited from. Not one iota, and you all know it. And so do the employees. It's greed upon greed upon greed. I don't know what else to say. Thank you for your time. I'm sorry, but this is how irate people are. Please make the right decision for our future and for Hutto's future. There's a really easy way. No. Just say no. If you can't put on your very brilliant, you're not in these seats because you were dummies. You guys are smart people. If you can't develop a way to convince this developer not to do this, it's all downhill for a lot of people. Everybody in this room. Because we got to move. We're not going to subject our kids to fuel, fumes, risks, rear-enders on the crowded streets. Okay, I've gone over time. I think you got it. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir, we've actually already had a 2.5-hour public hearing.
I agree, but I think there's a lot at stake.
And I understand that, but
I'd like 2 minutes of your time, if you don't mind.
you have exactly 1 minute. Only because we really have to move forward, because otherwise we all can't ask the questions that we need to ask and have the discussion we need to have.
I agree. I think as a community we could do a public lawsuit against the developers, and as a city of Hutto, and y'all going to annex us and ask for our taxes, y'all yourselves, they've turned y'all's retail, which they had a contract with y'all to turn the retail, and they turned it into public housing and the townhouses. Y'all should do a public action lawsuit against their development for what they've lied to the investors in the community. Y'all, it's y'all's turn to stand up and use your lawyers or whoever you need to and sue them for lying and not obligating their contract, and any judge in the world is going to rule y'all's way. Y'all take our property values and what we've invested in the community for a lot more than they have at risk, and I'm telling y'all have the side to pursue action against these guys. Y'all have contracts that they did not obligate.
And those are supposed to be retail and they're townhomes, and supposedly it's not in no one's obligation or jurisdiction, so they can do what they want. Now's the time for you to use your council or whoever y'all need to hire if he's not capable, and to stand up for your taxpayers, because that's why we moved to this community and that's why we invested what we invested. I'm sorry.
And I am closing the public hearing at 9:30. And opening up to commission for discussion.
Who wants to go first?
So I guess the first question, just to make sure, the only thing that we're looking at is we can look at the concept plan and approve the concept plan. That's about all the purview that we have. We have no...
The only authority you have is whether you're going to approve the requested change in the concept plan.
Yeah. So my question to that was,
if
we deny it, what does that actually do in practice?
Either way, it goes to city council.
Right, but then if city council denies it, what happens? It has to stay retail, or he can still build the fuel station? That was my question. Like if the site...
At that point in time, the developer's going to have to make a decision on what they choose to do relative to, do they just proceed to sell and litigate, or do they just go ahead and file suit, or do they try to negotiate? It's entirely in their bailiwick. The issue comes back to, we have limited authority relative to the approval of a concept plan and changes to the concept plan. The reason we're here tonight is the city's code, which relates to city zoning, talks about retail as separate from fuel and convenience store. The developer has taken the position that I'm outside of your zoning authority, so how can that definition apply to me?
I have a question regarding, it's been brought up a couple of times from folks addressing us here about annexation. Can we put conditions of annexation on a property? For example, we're not going to take a Superfund site until you clean it up. We're not going to take Star Ranch until you bring it up to our code.
We're not going to be annexing this part of Star Ranch
understood
for many, many years because of the agreements to set up the mud. Now, at the point in time at which Star Ranch gets annexed, the city's going to have to make a decision as to whether it wants that property or not. If, as you suggest, there is a serious environmental issue, the city might say, we don't have any interest. Okay? At the same time, anymore, with the recent change in the legislature, we're not going to be able to annex anything unless we get consent of the landowner.
Understood. And I'm talking about, Buck Rogers in the 25th century down the road type thing. But if they're running, let's say, 4-inch water pipes and our standard is 12, can we say we're not going to take it? Figure out a new buyer?
Yeah. We annexation is voluntary. The city doesn't have to do it, and they don't have to consent to it. Yes, the city could say, we're not going to annex you unless these things are taken care of.
Okay.
But just so everybody understands, annexation for Star Ranch is a long way away, and it's a long way away because of the agreements that created the MUDs. In fact, just what's the time frame on it?
There's 2 MUDs on Star Ranch. The first MUD, MUD 3, actually could be annexed relatively soon, except there's a large amount of debt on it. The city probably would not want to.
What he's referencing is, if you, as to MUD 3, if you annex it, the city's going to take on all of that debt and immediately have to pay it off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Currently, all those
Blake, can you? if nothing else, because the mic allows for.
Currently, all the Star Ranch residents pay the tax the MUD instead of the city, and the MUD puts out bonds, much like a city would, for utilities and drainage. MUD 3 is the older of the two MUDs, and I don't remember the exact wording of the agreements, but it's a percentage of build out or a 30-year time period. I believe MUD 3 is relatively close to that build out percentage, but I don't believe the city would want to take on the debt. I think they pretty soon have the ability to if they wanted to. Then MUD 22, which is the north end of Star Ranch, is quite a bit away. I think that one started in 2006.
And I'm not looking to propose any sort of annexation. I'm just asking for informational purposes. Look, down the road, this could be an issue for the property owner if he ever wants to be annexed.
As far as the MUDs go, I believe, and Shaughnessy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's kind of like an all or nothing for the MUD districts, not individual properties.
Right.
Well, certainly as long as there's outstanding debt, you're going to have to take the whole MUD.
Yeah,
exactly.
My point was, I don't think it's a good idea to have a gas station in a neighborhood. I know I wouldn't be happy about it. Near where my mom lived in Killeen, I don't know if anybody was aware, with Mickey's in 2016, an SUV came around a corner, hit a fuel truck while it was filling up, and caused a huge, massive explosion that took out part of an apartment building. Okay, so I don't think it's a good idea, and I'm not in favor of it. My personal opinion is that we would say it's going to stay as retail. Our opinion of the city is that you need to have a specific use permit for that, which probably if it came to the board, I would vote no. And we move forward from that. And then council can make their own decision. And if they want to support that, that's what they can do too, and also do retail. And then we can see what happens. And if that ends up in litigation or whatever, I don't know. But that would be my opinion of where we go forward from this board. So I don't know if anyone... so we can keep talking, but at some point I'd like to make a motion for that.
I'm in agreement with exactly everything you just said. So.
I just have a couple of questions. Has Mr. Timmerman met with these residents about this?
This particular issue, no.
Okay. Do you know why?
Tim is currently out of town.
Okay, that's okay. You will, I hope, take back to him everything you've heard tonight.
Yes, I'll tell him everything that happened.
Okay. I also would vote no against this because I also agree that a convenience store has no place in a location like this. These are very nice homes. Traffic is horrible. I'm just going to say I will not vote for it.
So I would like to make a motion that we didn't...
Hold on.
Sorry.
We're still in discussion.
Okay.
Nothing else from me.
Susanna, do you have?
I was just wondering, this parcel of property, is it just a private sale, or is it listed in any of the multiple listing services, or anything like that, where we could actually find out the information that our people here are wanting to know?
I believe at one point it was listed on LoopNet, but there's a sign up. You call the broker if you wanted.
Thank you.
I have another question. I do know that Mr. Timmerman in the past has put restrictions on properties that he sells, stating that I'm not going to allow a convenience store to go here. Do you know if I'm just at odds because there's so much other property in Star Ranch this could go on. The corner of I-30 and Star Ranch Road is going to have 300 times more exposure than this piece of property. And I'm sure the property would cost more money. I'm a realtor also. But I just don't think it looks good. So that's all I'm going to say.
So I also think this is the traffic and safety concerns alone are very troubling, and the fact that the fact that we're not able to do a traffic impact analysis and that the county won't do one, I've taken that corner so many different times, and I'm the one that's driving like 20 miles an hour as I go it, and I probably have a million people behind me upset, but it's there because I'm always seeing pedestrians, families utilizing that area. Is there any way that we're able to postpone this until after the consent agreements are amended?
You could choose to do that. It would seem to me you can grant it, you can deny it, you can delay it. Ultimately, if you grant or deny it, it's the city council that's going to have to make the decision on whether to either approve the change or not approve the change. They'd also be the people who ultimately have to either agree to the amendments to the underlying agreements or not. So the other agreements you're talking about in connection with the MOU ultimately don't have to be approved by you. They have to be approved by the city council.
Okay. Other discussion?
And just one other thing. Yeah, I appreciate all of you all coming out here and expressing your thoughts. Looking at, they provided us with a list of all the convenience stores and gas stations around that area. That's not going to add any value. I think it's going to be a degradation. I think, as a parent, you're right. You brought up some very good points about the crime, about underage drinking, underage smoking, things like that. So I appreciate all those comments, and we'll vote as a commission here, but I'm not for it.
I mean, I'll just say one thing. I mean, they brought 13 points that I wrote down that were very valid, they bought into the area, and, y'all probably presented it in a little, different fashion than how it is presented here, at least in my mindset. So, I mean, if you're wanting to have a good relationship with the people right there that bought the land that y'all developed, I mean, that's something to think about.
I would like to make a motion that we deny the land use designation parcel 31 change and keep it at retail.
Second.
And send that on to council with our recommendation as such.
And I second.
All right. I have a motion to deny 4C by Commissioner Clark and a second by Commissioner Robinson. Any other discussion? All in favor of denying 4C, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. And before we move on, please watch, and if staff can make sure that the residents are aware when this does come to council. Please show up again. Please speak. And for those that we've all interacted last year together, it does make an impact. So thank you.
Thank y'all.
Before anybody goes, Ashley, when's the next city council meeting?
August 15th.
Is it a week from Thursday?
15th.
I think it's 19th.
August 15th.
15th.
August 15th.
But will that have this on there because of all of the tax and budget stuff?
All right. You
We're
need to
looking it up
understand
really quick.
something.
Hold on.
Tim Timmerman and I are not friends. We don't get along well together, okay? He does not agree with the manner in which I have represented the city against his interest. But I would strongly urge you all to reach out and see if you can in some way work with him, not because I'm asking you to compromise, but because you need to recognize the city's authority is limited, okay? And I also acknowledge that Tim Timmerman is not someone who is always easy to negotiate with, but when you turned out last summer, you got some concessions from him. I just encourage you to keep that in mind.
Well, that's how we got that along Gaddiscoo Road by fighting him when he extended Gaddiscoo Road all the way through. I don't know who was around during that episode, but that's how we got that wall and got those homes bought out and everything. Does our county commissioner help us any, or is he just in on it himself? I mean, he's
Wait,
a builder.
hold on.
Can our county commissioner help?
I'm sure you can reach out to your county commissioner. I'm sure he's glad. We work with him on a number of matters. I'm sure he's glad to hear from you. And he will do everything he can to protect the interests of those people who live in his precinct. Again, his ability to do things is also limited.
Right.
But by reaching out to him, you have another point of contact with Mr. Timmerman. Okay?
Well, it'd pay if he sent a better representative that wasn't so damn arrogant. You know, that's how you get people upset when you're not negotiating in good faith because somebody says, "Well, we're going to do whatever we're going to do anyway."
All right.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. We are going to take a 5-minute recess. I'm sorry, we're going to take an 8-minute recess. And recessing at 9:47, we will reconvene at 9:55. And now jumping back up to 4A, consideration possible action on the meeting minutes from the regular scheduled Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on July 9th, 2019.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I second it.
All right. I have a motion by Commissioner Wirtz, and Commissioner Clark was louder than you, Hudson, so we're going to go with Clark.
Turn his mic off. Turn his mic off.
I don't care.
Speak into the mic next time. All right. Any other discussion on 4A? No. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. 4B, consideration and possible action on the proposed Riverwalk South preliminary plat, 118.97 acres, more or less, of land, 464 residential lots, located on CR 138.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
So this is a proposed prelim on the north side of County Road 138, just south of the existing Riverwalk development. They're proposing 464 single-family lots, 9 open space lots, and 10 green-link lots. There will be east-west and north-south connectivity, which is important for our thoroughfare plan. And then this is the breakdown of the first phase and the second phase. 103 lots in the first phase, 114 in the second phase, and then 134 in the third, and 113 in the fourth. With that, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the proposed prelim to City Council. We do have representatives from the city engineering team here if you have any specific questions related to traffic, drainage, etc. And the applicant is also here.
Wonderful. And with that, I will open up to the commission for discussion on 4B.
I have questions.
Of course you do.
Okay, on sheet 7 of 10, so everyone can reference. And
7
of 10.
Of 10? Okay.
Okay, so that is the overall wastewater plan. I brought my laser pointer so I can kind of.
It won't work.
That's
Those
it. I'm going home.
Okay. Recommendation.
Okay. So, it appears that wastewater is flowing uphill on James River Drive, and again along the north edge, which is on the left side of the map of the plat. So James River Drive is the sheet or the street at the top of the sheet.
James River, yeah, I see it.
Okay.
I see it. You can see it here.
And then the north edge of the property is actually
Okay.
the left side of the property.
Where do you see water flowing?
Okay, so looking at the contour lines, it goes from approximately 685 feet to up at the corner, it looks like it's 705. To me, that's a 20-foot rise. How is it flowing uphill?
And if
So,
you can just
engineering question, I
Hi,
guess.
If you can
appreciate
state your
very
name.
observant. My name is James A. Huffcutt Jr. I'm a registered professional engineer, vice president at Pape Dawson in Austin, and I specialize in land development. I've been doing it for 35 years. So I appreciate you picking out the optical discrepancy there. But we do have a plan. We have spent about 2 years working on this site and figuring out the sewer solutions. And we are going from south to north on James River Ride, but that area, there's a pond there. We're going to raise the elevation of that road and those lots and get it to drain down there because it's a very specific design that we'll be submitting to the city for the sewer in there that goes to the outlet that we're going down through Riverwalk North. And then we have a deeper line that we're putting in. So the first phase will hit the higher line that's existing. But we can't get all that area to drain to the upper lines. We're proposing a line through Riverwalk to the north.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that service has been discussed with the city. But good observation.
And kind of going hand in hand with that on the next page, sheet 8 of 10, it looks like the storm drain flow and the contours, again, seem to imply that the east side will get significantly more runoff and stormwater than anywhere else. And it sounds like you've got a mitigation plan to elevate that.
Yes.
And change the contour
Yeah,
lines.
because of the pond sizing, we want to try and balance it out. So we are actually redesigning the streets and the grading, doing cut and fill because the person that has hired us to do the work